Okay. So I would like to present you with a kind of narrative that I've been working on for about the last 3 years, basically. It's kind of a vision. It is going to be quite technical on some level, but I really try to give you the main concept so that we don't have to go into the mathematics. So I'm going to attack like the problem of decentralized database services. The whole idea is that with Web3, major requirement for mass adoption of our, the new decentralized web hinges on to what extent we can easily provide base layer infrastructure, so basic pipelining and decentralized infrastructure for real-time web applications that people are used to already on Web 2. Web 2 was the time of JavaScript, and luckily with Swarm and serving the web from decentralized services, we solved the problem of client-side rendering with JavaScript. So we no need to have centralized servers, and the kind of application logic can run in the client-side JavaScript code, or in some sort of decentralized, if complex computations are involved, then obviously Golem or stuff. And things go on the blockchain, which can be thought of as the database backend for the web applications. However, we all know that this is very expensive. So that's where this idea comes in, that Swarm should support the usual database backend that web developers are used to, and what constitutes most of our currently known web applications. So the question arises, how are we going to do database services in the new web? And I have a proposal for that within Swarm, kind of codenamed Sword. First of all, I'm going to recap a bit about the Swarm hash and chunking, and its relevance in providing proofs, inclusion proofs on the blockchain. So we talked about Swarm hash and chunk hash, and I just want to make sure that we are on the same page what these are. So the Swarm hash, as Zahur mentioned, is composed by the chunker. Which chunker chops any kind of incoming document into 4K chunks on the data level, packages the hashes or otherwise addresses of these data chunks into the next level of chunk, which we call intermediate chunk, and recursively applies that until you reach the root hash, which is called the Swarm hash of the document. So within that, on each level, when we package the hashes of the previous level, what hashes are we talking about? That's not the Swarm hash. The Swarm hash is defined by this tree. That hash is the chunk hash. So the question is, the Swarm hash can fall back to many different types of chunk hashes. What are we using? In the original Swarm implementation, as it runs currently, as Zahur mentioned, we applied the simple SHA-3 Kechak 256 hash on the chunk data, potentially 4K, pre-appended with the little endian representation of the 8-byte or 64-bit length of the subtree represented by that chunk. So the consequence of that is that it's a particular definition of chunk hash. Now, if we go back to the idea that the Swarm hash should be provable on the blockchain, there's already a solidity prover for the current Swarm hash. However, what happens if I, for example, want to prove that my name is on Wikipedia? What do I do? Let's assume that Wikipedia is one file for now. Yeah, one file. How do I prove my name? Well, I have to send in the relevant data chunk that's part of the Wikipedia, and prove then that Wikipedia maps to that particular hash that I provided proof on. What proof am I talking about? Of course, the Merkle proof. Because of the Swarm hash is tree property, we can apply Merkle proofs on that, which means that on the level of the Swarm trees chunks, we can have logarithmic compact proofs of inclusion. But inclusion of what? Inclusion of a chunk. So if I want to prove that my name is on Wikipedia, I have to upload an entire chunk for the blockchain to prove that that hash is the lowest level hash, which then is included indeed in another 4K chunk, which represents the intermediate chunk, and so on. So actually, it's logarithmic in the size of a whole chunk.